Good afternoon, fellow patriots. This is Matt Shea, and welcome to Patriot Radio, broadcasting live from deep inside the heart of the future Liberty State. Brought to you once again by On Fire Ministries, in the legacy of Dr. Stan Monteith, bringing you the story behind the story and the news behind the news, where it's not about right or left, it's about right and wrong. It's about our hope not being in man, but in Jesus Christ. About not ending in prayer, but moving to action. Your kingdom come, your will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Father, deliver us from the evil one.
Welcome to Patriot Radio.
Good afternoon, fellow patriots. And today on Patriot Radio, things continuing to heat up in the Middle East. Hurricane Milton about to devastate Florida, and also some interesting things happening here in the United States that you may not have heard about regarding weather modification. Here at Patriot Radio, we aim to bring you the news the most accurately and the fastest before all of the legacy media, so that you and your family can be prepared for the times that are ahead. In fact, the times that are already upon us. But as always, no fear. We were made for this. And during this summer of harvest, please subscribe to us on Rumble at Patriot Radio US and follow us on Telegram for real-time intelligence updates and breaking news. Also, you can support two great causes by going to Epoch Times and using promo code Patriot Radio and zstacklife.com/Patriot Radio for all of your health needs. We here at Patriot Radio just want to thank all of you that we are beginning to shatter viewership and listening records here for the show, and it's because of your faithful sharing and commenting and liking. Thank you for doing that. It gets the truth out across not just the United States, but now the world. And a special shout out to our listeners in New Zealand. And that brings us now to your Bible teaching moment today. And there's a lot of argument about what we should be doing as Christians, whether it should just be preaching the gospel or should we actually be praying for people to be healed and set free. Paul has something to say about this, and here is what he says. I will not presume, in Romans 15:18, for I will not presume to speak of anything except what Christ has accomplished through me, resulting in the obedience of the Gentiles, by word and deed, in the power of signs and wonders, in the power of the Spirit, so that from Jerusalem and all around as far as Illyricum, I have fully preached the gospel of Christ. Part of preaching the full gospel of Jesus Christ is praying for people so that God can move. He asks us to take that step of faith. Now, can God move without us? Of course he can, but he has put us on this earth to take dominion back from the enemy, because it's our rightful inheritance. It's our land. And so people that are sick, we should be praying for them. They'll never be healed if you don't pray. Will they? Think about that for a second. How about we actually do the commandment to heal the sick, cast out demons, begin walking that out as Christians, and see what happens. See if God doesn't meet us right there in that moment, especially in the times that we're in. And that brings us now to your daily intelligence briefing. Whew. So much going on right now in the world. But coming to us from the globalist front, we have quite a shift now toward artificial intelligence, and really an ominous split away from human thinking. Stay with me. This is the philosophical question brought up by Technocracy News. Does AI think the way humans think? The only way you might think that is based on language, where AI is giving you answers in your own language, but What if AI creates its own digital language to explain the world and everything in it? Communicating with you will be like a speed bump, even an inconvenience. Why would it bother? Artificial thinking is not human thinking. And AI has a big problem with truth and correctness. Human thinking appears to be a big part of that problem. But a new generation of AI is now starting to take a much more experimental approach that could catapult machine learning way past humans. Here's the point. What is missing with artificial intelligence? What is missing? A truly human element. Well, one of those things is emotion. And most importantly, the spirit. The spirit behind something actually matters. And while AI can be used for good or for evil, what is the spirit behind it and behind those who developed it? Because that should tell you the direction. And that brings us to the China front. Mosamitsu Yoshioka, that's a mouthful, has died at the age of 106. Who is that? He was the last survivor of the Japanese attackers at Pearl Harbor. For those of you that don't know what Pearl Harbor is or was, we're still living with the effects of that today in the South Pacific. That is when Japan, unprovoked, attacked the U.S. naval forces and air forces in Hawaii. Although, rightfully so, many have challenged that idea that it was actually a surprise attack. But either way, an era is ending from World War II, and it seems right on the cusp of us going into World War III. 6 nations conduct naval exercises near the Philippines. The Philippines launched these naval exercises off its north coast today alongside 5 other nations. The drills are focusing on anti-submarine, anti-air, and anti-surface operations. Australia, Canada, France, Japan, and the United States, and the Philippines, of course, are participating in the exercises. The drills are dubbed Sama-Sama, meaning togetherness, and involve almost 1,000 personnel. One of the interesting things that is coming out of this also is that the Philippines has ordered a couple thousand Stinger missiles, in other words, man-portable anti-aircraft weapons, and is asking that those be made actually in the Philippines to speed up delivery. In Taiwan, but to speed up the delivery in Taiwan. And the Philippines looks like it might follow suit, asking for weapons to be made in the Philippines. So Taiwan saying, hey, we want 2,000 man-pad missiles, because that's a huge deterrent against China, but they want to make them in Taiwan, while also the Philippines looking at that as well. Which brings us to the next, and that is China wants Taiwan to make mistakes and is looking for excuses to trigger a blockade, Taiwan's Navy commander said. Slowly but surely ramping up its military presence around Taiwan, it's ready to blockade Taiwan at any time they want. He described the tactic as an anaconda strategy, meaning to squeeze the island. At the same time, he said that Taiwan is focused on avoiding confrontation, but they are also clearly arming up right now. Wall Street Journal, China hacked U.S. court wiretapping system. The Wall Street Journal has reported that China was able to hack into U.S. broadband providers and then access systems the government uses for court-authorized wiretapping. The WSJ said that Verizon, AT&T, and Lumen Technologies were all breached. You think if they could breach that maybe they could breach the system and, I don't know, shut it down and deregister phones like happened last week? Great question. That brings us now to the Middle East front. The Battle of Lepanto. What? Yeah, October 7th, 1571. If you don't understand history, you don't understand why jihadis attack on these days. One of the greatest losses they ever suffered, the caliphate suffered, was on September 11th and 12th in 1683 at the Battle of Vienna. So that's why they attacked on September 11th. Well, likewise, the Battle of Lepanto was on October 7th, 1571. The worst naval defeat for Islam, and drove them back and led to the complete crushing of the caliphate in World War I. The idea behind these dates is we need to understand our history, and so we endeavor here at Patriot Radio to bring these dates up and the history behind them every time that we can. Now, there was also the Battle of Malta, and in the Mediterranean, the naval battles, and then Malta. All of these were happening at about the same era. And the point behind that is that it took force to drive back the caliphate. And so when we talk about the caliphate here on Patriot Radio, in particular that Recep Erdogan, the president of Turkey, wants to head in that direction and become the next caliph, we can see that a caliphate was the greatest danger and enemy of Christianity in its history, in Christian history, even more dangerous than Rome. In fact, Islam was characterized as a dragon for most of church history, and that came from a prophecy in a book called Second Esdras, which is in the Apocrypha of the 1611 King James Version of the Bible. And it's been held by the church as an authentic prophecy since it was written sometime before 200 AD. Back to the Battle of Lepanto, now you understand why there was an attack on that day in modern times. Also, the Israeli army has confirmed they've deployed a 3rd Troop Division into southern Lebanon, and as we speak, multiple news reports that southern Lebanon right now is being obliterated. Also, an earthquake the other day that we reported, at least on the Telegram feed. The earthquake in Iran, and this is what I was looking for actually, fits the profile of a nuclear test explosion. So was Iran sending a warning to Israel about its potential retaliation for the attack that happened the other day? A UK cabinet minister, Peter Kyle, stated earlier today that he does not rule out the British military aiding Israel with a retaliatory attack against Iran, but that all operational decisions would follow delicate negotiations. So the world still stands on the edge of a knife. Also, 3 Iranian officials have now confirmed that Brigadier General Ismail Khani, the commander of the Quds Force under the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, did travel to Lebanon last week following the assassination of Hezbollah Secretary General Hassan Nasrallah to ensure that the organization was still able to function. However, it is now unknown if he was killed or injured because there's been radio silence, which means another top leader in that whole terror organization and syndicate there in the Middle East may have indeed been killed. Well, today is October 8th, and yesterday was October 7th. And October 7th, remembered throughout at least the humane part of the world. I want to just be direct on something, that the brutality displayed there on October 7th toward the Jewish people by the Palestinians is not an aberration, but it's actually just a continuation of ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Muslim Brotherhood before them, going all the way back to what they did to Christians for 1,600 years. It's not an aberration. And I think it's important for us to understand that. And that might challenge some of you. The facts are the facts. And what Israel is doing right now in the Middle East is cleaning out terror organizations that, candidly, the United States should have a long time ago, and we should never have funded them in the first place. And also, Israel's army chief tells troops that Hamas military wing has been defeated. There was some strikes that happened in Gaza, but that, in effect, it has been defeated. And that brings us now to the Russia front. Whew. My goodness. According to a report from the Wall Street Journal, Victor Bout, a major Russian arms dealer known as the Merchant of Death, who was released from federal prison by the Biden administration in 2022 in exchange for the U.S. female basketball player Brittany Griner, who was arrested in Russia on smuggling charges after bringing cannabis oil into the country, appears to be back in business and behind an arms deal worth over $10 million, which seeks to deliver automatic weapons to the Houthi terrorist group in Yemen. Sometimes we are our worst enemy, our own worst enemy, when we do things like that. It is insane to me. Insane that we would let somebody like that out and that we negotiate with terrorists that way. Some breaking news coming out of the Middle East right now. IDF making serious moves into Hezbollah territory. Looks like right now there has been a significant incursion into Lebanon on the ground, including hundreds of airstrikes that have been happening in the last 24 to 48 hours. Also, Portugal's former ambassador to Qatar and member of the European Parliament tells Visegrad 24 that Qatar is helping Iran to evade sanctions. He also says that Al-Qaeda was completely financed by Qatar and that Qatar wants to rebuild the caliphate. That's fascinating. Also, Russian military police have withdrawn from the observation point located on top of the military hill of Al-Hara, north of Dara Governorate, adjacent to, well, it's only a few hundred kilometers away from the Israeli fence with the Golan Heights, southwest Syria. So the Russians are also pulling back, at least in that area right now. And in the Russia-Ukraine war, heavy UAV attack against targets in Russian-occupied Crimea, the oil depot in Feodosia has been severely hit. At least 3 major fires are raging. And aside from this place, the airfields of Saki and Belbek were also under attack. We're going to get here in the next couple of days some more clarity on the outcome of that as well. Also, a new blast near the Israeli embassy in Denmark on October 7th. Wow. And Viktor Orban, Geert Wilders, lead conservatives in rally for right-wing hero Matteo Salvini. The Italian deputy PM faces 6 years in prison for what? What is he getting charged for? Is it stealing money? Nope. Drug running? No, not drug running. Pedophilia? No, not pedophilia. Human trafficking? No, not human trafficking. He's getting charged with refusing entry to a migrant boat. In other words, he's getting charged for defending his country. Sounds kind of familiar, doesn't it? Also, Italy's Prime Minister Meloni is putting Italy on a path toward new nuclear power plants. Finally, several other EU countries, including France, Sweden, and the Netherlands and Poland, are already beginning to boost their nuclear capacity as part of their energy strategies. This should be happening here in the United States of America. And just a quick tangent for a second. Small modular nuclear reactors are the wave of the future. I talked about this 10 years ago in the Washington State Legislature, that we need to head toward that direction. So, a small modular nuclear reactor can be put outside of a major industrial area or major residential area, and it would power the entire thing. You put your lines underground, and you're not going to have power outages, even in the face of severe storms. In addition to that, they're modular, so you can grow with the demand, do it quite easily, and it's clean power. People that are afraid of nuclear power have not researched it thoroughly. And so small modular nuclear reactors is the way to go, and it should be the way to go here in America. And that brings us now to the national front. Hurricane Milton is now one of the strongest hurricanes ever recorded, turning into a Category 5 hurricane. Absolutely insane what is happening. And it's weird how it all of a sudden started out of nowhere. We're going to get to that here in a second. And, quote, it is undergoing some truly explosive rates of intensification rarely seen or observed in the Atlantic Basin this morning. Well, we're going to see what happens later this evening in Florida. But I want to go to the next part of this. The storm surge here covering most of the coast of Florida. The evacuation as larger than Hurricane Ian. And this is directly targeted at the Tampa area, Sarasota area. So those places are already battered from a couple of hurricanes. And the storm surge here could be well over 9-10 feet. And so people are leaving quickly out of those areas. Please be praying for those folks. Which brings us to just a brief interlude regarding North Carolina. Americans, they're coming together like never before. It's incredible to bring supplies via mule train, pack goat into some of these remote areas. And now they're saying, we don't even need you, FEMA. We don't want you here. Because there are widespread reports of FEMA blocking supplies coming in. Elon Musk, even to that extent, went national with it. And the Transportation Secretary, Pete, decided to remove some of those restrictions that were happening and did the right thing. But the fact is, it's been Americans coming together and helping each other that has really been the good news story out of that tragedy there in North Carolina. And the death toll looks like it may rise into the several thousand window. Just horrible. So I know a lot of you are already supporting people on the ground there, as are we here at On Fire Ministries. And please keep praying for everybody there as well and in Florida. From the Gateway Pundit, United States Supreme Court declines to take up Twitter X challenge to Jack Smith's secret Trump search warrant. It's very interesting. The search warrant was so secret that Trump didn't even know Jack Smith issued a subpoena for the records. Biden's corrupt Justice Department obtained a non-disclosure order that prohibited X from informing Trump about the subpoena. It looks like the Supreme Court... I mean, how long does this keep going on where there's these little secret star chamber things? I thought we got away from that when we broke from England. Also, Elon Musk tearing it up recently. 216,000 voters on the list in Arizona in violation of the law. Arizona Secretary of State hit with lawsuit over secret voter list and citizenship dispute. 216,000. You think they're not giving up on the election? Huh. Also, an absolutely poignant story. Charlotte Feehan pleads for the protection of unborn children at the United Nations. And here's what she said. You can try to kill off everyone with Down syndrome by using abortion, but you won't be any closer to a perfect society. You will just be closer to a cruel and heartless one. Wow, profound words. Profound words from a wonderful human being. So, we're going to end the briefing today quickly with, can you control the weather? Yes. In fact, there is an entire treaty prohibiting countries from engaging in what's called weather warfare. But more than that, General Flynn tweeted out something from Rep. Marjorie Taylor Greene. Yes, they can control the weather. Here's Obama CIA Director John Brennan talking about it. But wait, there's more. When I went into the legislature, I asked this question. People were asking me about chemtrails and all these things. Is it real? So I just went and I asked some staff. I said, hey, are there any statutes that have to do with geoengineering and weather modification? No, there's not. Well, several years later, because I actually read the statutes and the laws, I stumbled upon an entire RCW on weather modification, RCW 70A, literally titled Weather Modification. In the definition section says this: weather modification and control means changing or controlling or attempting to change or control by artificial methods the natural development of any or all atmospheric cloud forms or precipitation forms which occur in the troposphere. So there you have it. Not only is weather modification real, but you had to get a permit to do it and report it, and so many so that they revised the law so you don't really need a permit anymore. And it happens all the time. Go read the statute for yourself. By the way, 40 gigabytes in a public records request I got out of that. And that's the briefing.